Greetings viewers, Hugh here coming to you from Bristol Temple Meads, which is the western terminus of the Great Western Mainline. And well, I've just come down on one of these GWR IET trains from London, and of course the Great Western Mainline was electrified a few years ago, allowing electric trains to run. However, look up there. There is no wires here at Bristol Temple Meads, which is one of the most important stations in Britain, in my mind, especially as it's managed by Network Rail, which is, as a result, means all the trains that run here have to run in diesel mode, including these IET trains, which have to run in diesel all the way from Chippenham. So, why the hell is one of Britain's most important railway stations, and more importantly one of Britain's most important seaside towns, not electrified? Well, let me tell you a story. In 2009, most of the intercity mainline rail routes radiating out of London had been electrified, either using the 750-volt DC third rail system or the 25 kV AC overhead wire system. However, two significant routes that ran top intercity expresses remained almost entirely diesel, one being the Midland Main Line running from St Pancras, which at the time had only been electrified as far as Bedford in 1983 in order to accommodate new electric commuter services as part of the Thameslink project, and the other being the Great Western Mainline out of Paddington, one of Britain's most famous rail routes running from London to the key port city of Bristol, but also running to the industrial centres of South Wales, as well as providing services to the important towns of Devon and Cornwall. In 2009, the only part of the Great Western Main Line to be electrified was the 11-mile stretch of the line between Paddington and Hayes and Harlington, energised in 1998 to allow electric trains to run the Heathrow Express service. There had been growing calls to electrify the line, with several proposals being drawn up during 2009 and into 2010, and it wasn't until June 2011 when Network Rail finally put together its plan to modernise the Great Western. The plan was to electrify the Great Western Main Line from Hayes and Harlington to Bristol Temple Meads, Cardiff Central, and eventually Swansea. This would also include electrifying some regional branch lines in the Thames Valley towards Windsor, Marlow, Henley, Newbury and Oxford. Many stations along the main line would also be upgraded and modernised as part of the electrification project, with Reading, which had previously been a significant bottleneck on the line, being almost completely rebuilt, with 5 new platforms, new running lines, as well as a larger footbridge to accommodate growing passenger numbers. The junction to the west of the station was also significantly modified, with a new flyover allowing fast trains to bypass the previously flat junction with the line towards Taunton and Basingstoke. Other stations like Bristol Parkway, Newport, London Paddington, Didcot Parkway and Bristol Temple Meads would also see small upgrades and re-signalling as part of the modernisation project. The project also sought to introduce new rolling stock onto the line, with the nearly 40-year-old all-diesel HST sets being replaced by new Hitachi trains as part of the Intercity Express programme, with the Class 165 and 166 trains running in the Thames Valley region also being replaced by new Class 387 trains from Bombardier, with the older rolling stock being displaced into the Bristol area and the southwest to allow for replacement of older Class 142 and 143 trains. The whole scheme was expected to be completed by 2017, with an estimated cost of £874 million. However, by 2015, despite electrification of the main line being done at a rapid pace, it was found out that the cost of the project had risen to £2.8 billion, largely caused by delays in the electrification process, with the completion date of the main project to bring the wires to Bristol and Cardiff being pushed back to 2020, and Swansea was set to be completed by 2024. However, in late 2016, newly appointed Transport Minister Chris Grayling announced that the electrification of the lines from Chippenham to Bristol via Bath, Bristol Parkway to Bristol, and the branches to Oxford, Henley and Windsor had been deferred indefinitely, meaning that they weren't necessarily cancelled but waiting to be done at an indeterminate date, with some of the masts even being erected on the Oxford line and on the main line just beyond Chippenham. Electrification from Cardiff to Swansea was completely cancelled in 2017, meaning that the order of 21 new fully electric Class 801 trains for GWR would be converted into Class 800/3 bimode trains to run on both diesel and electric power alongside the already ordered Class 800 and 802 fleet. The curtailment also resulted in GWR having a significant surplus of Class 387 trains intended not only to run to Newbury and Didcot, but also to Oxford, not helped by many of them being displaced by Class 345s as part of the Crossrail project, taking over most services between London and Reading. Some were converted for use with Heathrow Express, and a few went to Great Northern, but many are now left as spare, and some even run to Cardiff. So that leaves us where we are today, with the overhead wires only covering the full line from London to Cardiff, a small section of line from Swindon to just north of Chippenham, and the branch from Reading to Newbury, with diesel trains still having to run to Oxford, Bristol, and Swansea. However, I want to specifically talk about the lines running toward Bristol in this video, as it is quite baffling in a project that was supposed to modernise the Great Western Mainline. Quite a large chunk of what is considered the Great Western Mainline, from London to Bristol, remains unelectrified. Now, granted, Cardiff is a significantly more important metropolitan area that desperately needed an electric rail service, especially with the modernisation of the railway network in South Wales, but I do think Bristol is a far more important place to have electric trains running to it than Newbury. Now, I don't mean any disrespect toward the people of Newbury, but extending the wires from Chippenham and Bristol Parkway to Temple Meads, in my opinion, should have been given priority over anything else, as it is the primary Great Western route serving a much larger metropolitan area. On top of this, most stations on the lines running into Temple Meads have had their footbridges modified in order to allow the wires to go through, including Chippenham, Keynsham, Stapleton Road, and the newly built Ashley Down. This also coincided with the line between Patchway and Temple Meads being converted back to 4 tracks to allow for greater capacity. Unfortunately, there hasn't been too much information on whether the overhead wires will reach Bristol any time in the near future, especially with other railway projects including the Transpennine route upgrade and HS2 taking up loads of funding, not to mention the significant cost overruns the Great Western Modernisation project experienced in the first place. As for Oxford, with the plans for the new east-west rail route to be electrified, it would make sense to electrify the line from Didcot as well. As for the Thames Valley branches, I don't see them being electrified anytime soon. And as for Bristol, we can only hope, but for now, diesel-powered trains will still have to travel from Chippenham to Bristol. So to end the video, I'm standing at the very lovely Chippenham station that has had a new footbridge built in order to accommodate the wires, but about a mile away, up there, towards London, the wires stop. And from here on, the Great Western Mainline has to run on diesel power. So there you go, that is me talking about probably the biggest missed opportunity when it comes to electrifying railways. One of Britain's most important railway routes, the Great Western, despite the fact it was electrified a few years ago, hasn't been fully electrified all the way to Bristol. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye! So, to end the video, I'm standing here at the absolutely lovely Chippenham station. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you very soon. Bye-bye! These announcements are f***ing annoying. Ugh.